I didn't think I was the kind of guy this would happen to. That's probably the most cliché way to start something like this, but it's the truth. I had always been the steady one, the reliable boyfriend, the guy who stayed, who worked, who showed up when it mattered. I built my life around consistency. Same job for 7 years, same gym, same coffee place every morning where they didn't even ask my order anymore. And for 5 years, I had her. Her name was Lauren, blonde, not the fake kind, the kind that caught sunlight like it had a mind of its own. She had this way of laughing where she'd tilt her head back just slightly, like she didn't want to fully give in to it but couldn't help herself. I used to think that sound was the safest place in the world. We met in Chicago, at a friend's birthday thing in a cramped bar that smelled like spilled beer and cologne. She was leaning against the wall, scrolling her phone like she didn't really want to be there. I made some dumb joke about the music. She looked up, gave me this half smile, and somehow that was it. 5 years started from that exact moment. We moved in together after about a year, a third-floor apartment in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. We argued about normal things, dishes, laundry, who forgot to take out the trash, but it never felt like we were breaking. It felt like we were building something. At least, that's what I thought. If I'm being honest, the first cracks didn't look like cracks at all. They looked like life. Lauren got a promotion about 8 months before everything fell apart. Marketing firm downtown. Longer hours, more responsibility, more pressure. I was proud of her, I really was. I told everyone. My parents, my coworkers, even the barista who probably didn't care. I liked saying it out loud. Made me feel like we were moving forward. But something shifted. She started coming home later. At first it was just this week, then it became normal. Her phone was always nearby, screen facing down. Not locked away, not hidden, just present. Like it mattered more than it used to. I noticed, but I didn't push. That's the part that keeps replaying in my head now. The moments where I could have asked more questions but didn't. I told myself I was being supportive, that relationships change, that ambition takes time. There was one night that sticks out more than the others. A Friday. I remember because I left work early, picked up takeout from her favorite place, this little Italian spot she loved, and I even grabbed a cheap bottle of wine I knew she wouldn't complain about. I got home around 6, lit a couple candles like some kind of movie scene, which honestly felt ridiculous even as I was doing it. But I wanted to do something nice, something that reminded us, I don't know, that we were still us. She didn't get home until almost 10. When she walked in, she looked exhausted. But there was something else too. Not guilt, not exactly, just distance.
Like she was already halfway somewhere else. "You didn't have to do all this," she said, dropping her bag by the door. I shrugged it off. I wanted to. We ate, talked about surface-level stuff. Her boss, a campaign they were working on, some coworker drama I couldn't keep straight. She laughed a few times, but it felt like she was performing the version of herself I remembered. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, just for a second, but I caught it. The way her eyes sharpened, the way her fingers moved just a little quicker than normal when she picked it up. "Work," she said, without me even asking. I nodded. Didn't question it. Didn't want to be that guy. But something in my chest tightened anyway. After dinner, she said she needed to take a quick shower, and then maybe we could watch something. I cleaned up the kitchen, put everything away, tried to ignore the way my mind kept circling back to that moment. Her phone was on the coffee table. I stared at it longer than I'd like to admit. It wasn't buzzing anymore, just sitting there, quiet. I had never gone through her phone before, not once, not in 5 years. I believed in trust, or at least I thought I did. But that night, something felt off enough that I couldn't ignore it. I picked it up. My hands were steady, but my chest wasn't. I knew her passcode. We'd never hidden things like that from each other. It wasn't about secrecy. It was about respect. I wish I had put it back down. The first thing I saw wasn't even that bad. Just messages. A contact saved as D. Nothing weird about that. Could have been anyone. I almost closed it right there, but I didn't. I opened the thread. At first, it looked like normal conversation. Work stuff, jokes, random comments. But then I scrolled, and the tone changed. Subtle at first. Little things. Inside jokes that didn't make sense to me. Messages sent late at night. Responses that came too fast, too eager. Then I saw one that made my stomach drop. I can still feel you. No context, no explanation. Just that. My brain tried to rationalize it immediately. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe I was misunderstanding. But then I kept scrolling. I wish you didn't have to leave so early. You're going to get me in trouble. Worth it. That last one hit harder than it should have. I don't remember how long I stood there. It felt like time slowed down in the worst possible way. Like everything around me was still moving, but I was stuck inside this moment I didn't know how to process. I heard the shower turn off. That snapped me out of it. I locked the phone, set it back exactly where it was, and sat down on the couch like nothing had happened. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure she'd hear it. When she came out, hair damp, wearing one of my old t-shirts, she looked normal, like the same girl I'd been living with for years, the same girl I thought I knew. "You okay?" she asked, noticing I was quiet. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Just tired."
She nodded, sat next to me, leaned her head on my shoulder like she always did. And that's when it really hit me. Because for a second, everything felt the same. Her weight against me, the faint smell of her shampoo, the way her fingers rested lightly on my arm, and at the exact same time, over and over again, trying to piece together something that made sense. I wanted to ask her right then. Just turn and say it, confront her, demand answers. But I didn't. Instead, I wrapped my arm around her like I always did, like nothing had changed, because I wasn't ready for the truth yet. And deep down, I think I already knew it wasn't going to be something I could come back from. That night, I barely slept. She was right next to me, breathing slow and steady, completely unaware of the storm building inside my head. I kept staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment from the past few months, every late night, every distracted conversation, every time she smiled at her phone. I wasn't just questioning her, I was questioning everything. Around 3 a.m., she shifted in her sleep and moved closer to me instinctively, like she always did, like her body still recognized me as home. And that's what broke something inside me, because I didn't know if that was still true, or if I had already been replaced and just didn't realize it yet. I spent the next 2 days pretending I was a normal person. I went to work, I answered emails, I laughed when people said things that were probably funny. I drove home through the same traffic, parked in the same garage, unlocked the same apartment door, and kissed the same woman on the cheek, like my whole life hadn't been split open by a text thread on a Friday night. That was the weirdest part. Not the pain, not even the disbelief. It was the routine. How ordinary everything looked while I was falling apart. Lauren acted exactly the way she always did, or maybe I was just seeing her through a different lens now. Every expression felt suspicious. Every delay in her response felt rehearsed. Every time her phone lit up, I noticed. Every time she smiled down at it and then set it aside, I noticed that too. I started studying her in a way I never had before, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stop. I wanted to catch the exact second where the woman I loved turned into someone I didn't know. I wanted to find the moment, the switch, the thing that would explain how somebody could come home to you, sleep next to you, ask if you wanted Thai or pizza for dinner, and also be texting another man about how she could still feel him. I didn't confront her right away because I needed to know what I was dealing with. Maybe that makes me sound weak. Maybe it makes me sound calculating. I don't know. At the time, it felt like survival. I wasn't ready to walk into a conversation where she could lie to my face, and I'd have nothing except a few lines on a screen and a gut full of panic. So I watched. I listened. I became a stranger in my own relationship. On Sunday morning, she said she was going to brunch with her friend Tessa. Totally normal. Tessa was real. I knew Tessa. I'd met her maybe 10 times. Loud, funny, divorced, always wearing some oversized sunglasses like she was ducking paparazzi. Lauren stood in the bedroom mirror doing her makeup, while I sat on the edge of the bed pretending to scroll on my phone. "You want to come?" she asked casually. "Tessa's bringing some guy she's seeing. It might be a whole thing." I looked at her in the mirror. "No, I'm good." She smiled. "You hate brunch."
I don't hate brunch. You absolutely hate brunch. I almost laughed, because that part was true. I hated crowded restaurants and watery coffee and $20 eggs. Usually, her teasing me like that would have felt easy, familiar. That day, it just made me feel sick. She left around 11, wearing jeans, boots, and this fitted cream sweater I had always liked on her. She kissed me before she went. Quick, soft, automatic. The second the door shut, I moved. I hated myself for it, even while I was doing it. I went straight to the bedroom, opened her nightstand, checked her laptop bag, looked through the bathroom drawers, and finally opened the little basket by the entryway where we dumped random stuff: keys, receipts, old chapstick, carts from restaurants. That's where I found it. A valet ticket. Downtown hotel. Thursday night. The week before. I just stared at it. She told me she had been stuck at the office until almost midnight that Thursday. I remembered because I texted her around 9 asking if she wanted me to save her dinner, and she'd replied, "Don't worry up, this launch is a mess." I checked the date again. Same night. I sat down at the kitchen table and kept the ticket in my hand for a long time. It was such a small thing, a flimsy rectangle of paper, but it felt heavier than anything I'd ever held. Because now I had proof of movement, a place, a location that wasn't the office, a lie that existed in the real world, not just inside some message thread. I wanted to throw up. Instead, I put it back exactly where I found it. That became the rhythm of my days. Finding things, replacing them, gathering pieces without letting her know I was gathering them. Monday night, she said she had to stay late again. I nodded, said okay, and waited 10 minutes after she left before I grabbed my keys and went after her. I'm not proud of that either. If you've never followed someone you love through city traffic while trying not to be seen, I hope you never understand what that feels like. It strips away every illusion you have about yourself. I used to think jealousy was loud, dramatic, explosive. But it's not. Real jealousy is quiet. It's a deadly kind of focus.
It's white knuckles on a steering wheel. It's watching the car ahead of you and praying to nobody that it turns into a mistake instead of a confirmation. She didn't go to the office. She drove to a bar in River North. Not one of the packed sports bars with neon everywhere. This was one of those low-lit places that tries to look casual but charges $18 for bourbon. I parked half a block down and sat there in my car, every part of me buzzing. I kept telling myself, maybe it was a client meeting. Maybe coworkers were inside. Maybe I was about to feel insane and relieved at the same time. Then I saw him. He came out of the bar first, standing just outside the entrance, checking his phone. Tall, dark jacket, broad shoulders, late 30s maybe. The kind of guy who looked polished without trying. Not flashy, not young, controlled. He had that corporate confidence that made me hate him instantly. A minute later, Lauren walked out, and the way her face changed when she saw him told me everything I needed to know. I had spent days wondering whether I was overreacting, misreading, spiraling. But there are some things you recognize on sight. She smiled at him in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. Not her polite smile, not her tired smile. This was warmer, sharper, alive. He stepped toward her and touched the small of her back like he'd done it 100 times. She didn't flinch. They went back inside together. I stayed in the car for another 20 minutes, maybe 30. I don't know. I was gripping the wheel so hard my hands hurt. Every rational thought I had just collapsed. All the maybes were gone. All the excuses I'd been handing her in my own head were gone. I wasn't imagining it. My girlfriend was meeting another man in a bar after telling me she was working late. I almost drove away. Almost. There was still some part of me that wanted to avoid the final blow. But then I watched them come back out. He had his hand on her waist this time, and she was laughing. Not the laugh she gave coworkers, not the careful one. It was open, easy, intimate. He leaned in and said something near her ear. She looked around once, quickly, and then she kissed him. It wasn't a hesitant kiss. It wasn't an accidental crossing of a line. It was practiced. That was the word that hit me hardest. Practiced. Like this had happened enough times that their bodies knew exactly where to go. She stepped in closer to him. His hand slid lower along her back. They kissed again, slower this time, like they had nowhere else to be. I don't remember unbuckling my seatbelt. I just remember being outside the car, then halfway down the sidewalk, then suddenly close enough to see the surprise on Lauren's face when she opened her eyes and saw me. That image is burned into me. Him still touching her, her mouth still parted from the kiss, the blood draining out of her face like someone pulled a plug. "Ryan," she said. Just my name, barely a voice.
The guy turned and looked at me, confused for half a second, then cautious. He took a small step back, but didn't fully let go of her. That made something dark flash through me. I looked at him. "Are you kidding me?" Lauren moved away from him then. "Ryan, wait." "No," I said, louder than I meant to. "No, don't do that. Do not hit me with weight right now." A couple outside the restaurant glanced over. The valet looked up. I could feel people noticing, but suddenly I didn't care. For days I had been choking on this private humiliation, and now here it was, out under streetlights for anyone to see. The guy straightened up and said, "I think I should go." I laughed, and it sounded ugly even to me. "Yeah, you think?" Lauren shot him a look I couldn't read. Panic, maybe? Maybe warning? Maybe concern. That hurt too, that she had any emotion left to spend on him while I was standing right there, blown open. He muttered something to her, I couldn't hear it, then walked off toward the valet stand. I watched him go and then turned back to her. She was pale. Her eyes looked huge. For 1 second, looking at her like that, I saw the woman I loved again. The woman who fell asleep with one leg over mine. The woman who cried during commercials if there was a dog involved. The woman who knew exactly how I took my coffee and what songs I skipped every time. Then I remembered the hotel ticket. "How long?" I asked. She swallowed. "Ryan." "How long?" Her eyes filled instantly, and I hated that too. Hated that she got to cry now. Hated that part of me still reacted to her tears after what I'd just seen. "It's not what you think," she said. That line, that stupid, insulting line. I actually took a step back and stared at her. "I just watched you make out with another guy outside a bar after you lied to me about working late. What exactly do you think I think?" She put a hand over her mouth and looked down. "Please don't do this here." I laughed again. "You should have thought about that before doing this here." Her shoulders shook once, like she was trying to hold herself together. "Can we please just go home?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her there was no home. Not anymore. Home was the thing she just lit on fire outside a cocktail bar on a Monday night. But I was too angry to trust my own mouth. So I got back in my car, and she followed me in hers. That drive home was maybe 15 minutes. It felt like an hour. I kept gripping and releasing the steering wheel, trying not to punch it, trying not to speed, trying not to think about the fact that she was behind me at every red light, still tethered to me by headlights and history. When we got back to the apartment, she walked in first and stood near the kitchen island, like she didn't know where she was allowed to put her body. I didn't sit down. I didn't take my jacket off. I just stood across from her and said it again. "How long?" She closed her eyes. 3 months. 3 months. I let that settle in the room between us. 3 months of lies. 3 months of sleeping next to me, texting him, kissing me goodbye, kissing him after. 3 months of me existing inside a reality she had already abandoned. "Who is he?" She hesitated. "His name is Daniel." "From work?" She nodded. Of course he was from work. Of course it was someone conveniently packaged inside all those late nights and meetings and launches. My chest felt like it was caving in. "Did you sleep with him?" That was the first question she didn't answer right away. And that silence told me yes before she ever said a word. I looked away from her because I had to. I physically had to. The room felt too small all of a sudden, like there wasn't enough oxygen in it for both of us. "How many times?" "I don't know." I turned back so fast it made her flinch. "You don't know?" "I mean, I'm not counting, Ryan." That was the wrong thing to say. She knew it the second it left her mouth. Her face changed immediately. But it was too late. Not counting. I can still hear it. not counting. Like I was asking for some minor detail. Like the number had passed the point of importance because there had been too many to track. Something in me just went cold. I had been angry before. Devastated. Humiliated. Sick. But now there was this other feeling underneath it all. And it was worse because it was clean. A kind of clarity so sharp it almost didn't feel emotional anymore. "Get out," I said. She blinked. "What?" "Get out." "Ryan, please." "Go stay with him. Go stay with Tessa. Go stay in your office for all I care, but you are not sleeping here tonight." She started crying harder then. Full tears now. Coming around the island toward me. "Please don't do this. Please, we need to talk about this." I stepped back before she could touch me. "We are talking about it. You cheated on me for 3 months. It wasn't supposed to happen." I just stared at her. "You know what's incredible? You're saying that like it happened once. Like you slipped and fell onto some guy over and over again for an entire season." She covered her face and shook her head. "I know how bad this looks." I actually cut in. "Looks?" She dropped her hands. "I know how bad this is." There it was. The tiny correction. Too late? But there. She looked wrecked. Makeup smeared. Hair falling out of place. Sweater twisted where his hands had been. And I realized with this awful splitting pain that I still loved her. Even standing there. Even knowing what she'd done. I still loved her enough that this was killing me. Instead of just making me angry. That's what betrayal really is. It's not just that someone hurts you. It's that they hurt you while your heart still insists on reaching for them anyway. I opened the front door. She stared at me for a long second, like she couldn't believe I meant it. Then I saw the moment she understood that I did. She grabbed her purse, her keys, and her coat from the chair.
At the door, she turned back, tears streaming down her face. "I do love you," she said. I don't know why that was the final knife, but it was. Because maybe she believed it. Maybe that was the worst part. I looked at her and said, "I don't even know what that means anymore." Then she walked out. And for the first time in 5 years, I was alone in that apartment. The silence after she left didn't feel peaceful. It felt loud in a way I didn't know silence could be. Every little thing in the apartment suddenly had weight. The hum of the fridge, the faint ticking of the wall clock, the way the air vent rattled every few minutes. It was like all the background noise I had tuned out for years had been waiting for this exact moment to come screaming forward. I didn't move for a while. I just stood there by the open door, staring into the hallway where she disappeared, like she might walk back in and say it was all some kind of twisted misunderstanding. But she didn't. Eventually, I closed the door. That sound, the latch clicking shut, hit harder than anything else that night. It felt final in a way I wasn't ready for, like something had just been sealed, locked away, and I didn't have the key anymore. I walked into the living room and sat on the couch, the same spot we'd been sitting in 2 nights earlier, when she leaned her head on my shoulder like nothing had changed. I could still feel it. That's the part nobody really talks about, how the body remembers things even after the truth rewrites everything. My shoulder felt like it still carried her weight. My arm felt like it still belonged around her. I looked over at the coffee table. Her phone wasn't there this time. That made something twist inside me again. Not even jealousy, something more hollow,
like realizing the last physical trace of her in that moment was gone too. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, hands clasped, and just sat there trying to figure out what I was supposed to do next. There wasn't a guide for this, no step-by-step process. 1 hour ago, I had a life, a relationship, a routine that, even if it was cracking, still existed. Now I had space, too much of it. I got up and started walking around the apartment, not really sure why. The bedroom felt wrong immediately. The bed was still unmade from that morning, her pillow slightly indented, her side of the closet half open. I stepped inside anyway. Her clothes were still there. Dresses, sweaters, jeans, shoes lined up in that slightly messy way she always had. Nothing about it looked like someone who was halfway out the door. But she had been, for months. That realization hit differently now that I was standing in the middle of it. She had been living 2 lives in the same space. Waking up here, leaving here, coming back here. All while something else was happening just out of reach. I opened one of the drawers and saw her jewelry. Rings, necklaces, the watch I bought her 2 years ago for her birthday.
I picked it up without thinking. She used to wear it almost every day. I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen it on her wrist. I set it back down slowly, like it might break if I moved too fast. Then I went into the bathroom. Her toothbrush was still next to mine, her makeup scattered across the counter. A hair tie looped around the faucet like she'd just left it there without thinking. I stared at the mirror for a second. I looked different. Not physically, not really, but there was something in my face I didn't recognize. Something sharper, tired in a way that sleep wouldn't fix. I turned away. The apartment felt smaller the longer I stayed inside it, like the walls were closing in, trapping me with all these pieces of a life that didn't make sense anymore. So I grabbed my keys and left. I didn't have a plan. I just drove. Chicago at night can feel like 2 completely different cities, depending on where you are. Loud and alive in some places, quiet and almost empty in others. I ended up driving along the lake for a while, the city lights reflecting off the water in this calm, steady way that felt completely disconnected from what was going on in my head. I parked near one of the overlooks and just sat there. That's when the anger came back. Not the explosive kind from earlier. This was slower, heavier, the kind that settles in your chest and doesn't move. 3 months. I kept coming back to that number. Not because of the time itself, but because of everything packed inside it. Holidays, weekends, random Tuesdays, all the normal days that I thought were just ours. They weren't. They had been shared. That thought made my jaw tighten. I started replaying moments again, but now they looked different. That Thursday night she said she was stuck at the office. She wasn't. That random Saturday she said she had to run errands alone. Was that even real? The times she seemed distracted during dinner, the way she'd smile at her phone and then lock it quickly when I looked over. It all connected now. It formed this ugly, undeniable pattern. And the worst part was how blind I'd been. I had trusted her completely, not in a passive way, but actively. I chose to believe in her, in us, every single day. And she used that. Not necessarily in a calculated, evil way, but she used it nonetheless. She relied on the fact that I wouldn't question her. That realization made something inside me shift again. Because now it wasn't just about what she did, it was about what it meant. I sat there for a long time before my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. For a second, I just stared at it. My thumb hovered over the screen, not moving. I didn't know what I expected. An explanation, an apology. Something that would make any of this make sense. I answered. Hello? Her voice came through shaky. Ryan? I didn't say anything. I'm so sorry, she said quickly, like she'd been holding the words back and they just rushed out. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I'm so sorry. I leaned back in the seat and closed my eyes. Where are you? I asked. At Tessa's. Of course. She doesn't know everything, Lauren added quickly. I just told her we had a fight. I let out a quiet breath. What do you want, Lauren? Silence on the other end for a second.
I want to talk, she said. I want to explain. Explain what? I asked. Explain how you ended up in a bar kissing another guy? Or explain how you managed to lie to me for 3 months without it slipping once? Her voice cracked. It didn't start like that. I almost laughed again, but it came out more like a tired exhale. It never does. I mean it, she said. It wasn't planned. It just happened. That doesn't mean anything to me. I know, she said quickly. I know it sounds stupid. Ryan, I felt lost for a while. With work, with everything. And he was there and Stop. She went quiet. I don't need to hear how great he is, I said. Or how he made you feel something I didn't. That's not what I was going to say, she said softly. It doesn't matter, I replied. That's what it is. Another pause. I never stopped loving you, she said. There it was again, that sentence. And again, it didn't land the way she probably thought it would. I opened my eyes and looked out at the dark water. Do you hear yourself? I asked quietly. You're telling me you love me, while also telling me you've been sleeping with someone else for months. I know how it sounds. No, I cut in, sharper now. You don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't be saying it like it means something. Her breathing hitched. I could hear her crying again, trying to keep it quiet. I messed up, she said. I messed up really badly. But that doesn't erase what we have. I clenched my jaw. It kind of does. It doesn't have to, she insisted. We can fix this. People come back from worse things. I shook my head even though she couldn't see it. Did you ever think about me? I asked. While you were with him? She didn't answer. That silence was enough. Yeah, I said softly. That's what I thought. I did, she said quickly, almost desperately. I did think about you. That's why I feel so horrible right now. That's not better, Lauren, I said. That's worse. She broke down more openly then, her voice losing any attempt at control. I don't want to lose you. I closed my eyes again. That sentence hit something deep, something stubborn that hadn't fully let go yet. Because despite everything, despite the anger and the clarity and the coldness creeping in, there was still a part of me that didn't want to lose her either. And I hated that part. I don't know what you expected, I said finally. You can't do what you did and then act like we just hit a rough patch. I'm not saying that, she said. I know it's bigger than that. I don't want this to be the end.
I didn't respond right away. Cars passed behind me. The lake stayed still. The city lights kept reflecting like nothing had changed. I need time, I said eventually. Okay, she said quickly. Okay, that's fair. Take whatever time you need. I mean it, I added. Don't call me, don't text me. Just give me space. There was a hesitation. Can I at least? No. Another pause. Okay, she whispered. Okay. I pulled the phone away from my ear for a second, but I didn't hang up yet. Lauren? Yeah? I swallowed, not sure why I was even asking this. Maybe because some part of me needed to hear it out loud. Are you still seeing him? Silence. Then quietly, I don't know. That answer settled everything. Not because it was honest, but because it showed me exactly where I stood. I ended the call. I sat there for a few more minutes, staring out at the water, letting that final piece click into place. She didn't know, which meant she hadn't chosen. And if she hadn't chosen me by now, then maybe I already had my answer.